I'm Larry Fedoruk, and this is Later That Same Life, my weekly storytelling podcast. My views from the past, present, and even glimpses into the future. A new episode every Thursday.
Season 1, Chapter 9, Catholic High School.
My diploma certified that I had graduated from Holy Cross Catholic High School. I grew up in a small town. There was only the high school. But after my sophomore year, our family moved into the city. Lots of high schools. I wanted to go to the big cool school just down the street from our new house. But we were Catholic. Mom's new job was teaching at a Catholic elementary school, so I wasn't allowed to leave the flock. I had to attend the other high school just down the other street. The Catholic High School, Holy Cross. Holy Cross, a good generic name for a Catholic institution. Other schools named after bishops or popes eventually had to change their name rather than try to defend the revelations of improprieties of said namesake. Mom taught at St. Philip's grade school. I think St. Philip was okay. I don't remember my catechism that well, but I think St. Philip was the patron saint of pocket combs. Not a huge call for that these days, but back when I was a kid, if you lost your pocket comb, you prayed to St. Philip for its safe return. Catholics have over 10,000 saints. There's a ton of rules to qualify for sainthood, but number one, first and foremost, you have to be dead. I get that. Can you imagine a living saint walking around? Hey, good to see you, Francis. You may be the Pope, but I'm a saint. Smell you later. Pope would be like, oh, what a mistake that was. Yeah, there'd be no living with a living saint. So you have to be dead. It's not the only qualification, but once you're dead and achieve sainthood, you also get a patronage. You are a patron saint of a thing, a group, a place, so forth. It's like government. I'm the Minister of Finance. I'm Secretary of Defense. I'm patron saint of feet. The difference in the church is that neither God nor the Pope ever do a cabinet shuffle. I always thought they should. You know, move them around. I think the saints would appreciate it. Hey, Lordo, I've been the patron saint of cats for like a millennia. I don't even like cats. How about patron saint of Paris? I always loved Paris. The current Paris guy isn't doing much. He won't even answer his prayers. You got to leave a message. Lord, huh? Come on, what do you think? When I was a kid, a lot of people had a St. Christopher medal in their car. You know why? St. Christopher is the patron saint of motorists. Even though St. Christopher died approximately 1,600 years before the car was invented. Somehow he got the motorist's portfolio. Well, you know, it's always who you know. So Mom taught at St. Philip's. We were Catholic. I'm going to Holy Cross. When I say we were Catholic, it was mostly me and Mom. Dad, not as much. Oh, he gave it a shot every once in a while, but it would never take. I think the deal breaker for Dad was confession. What? Once a week I gotta go in and confess all my sins? I don't got that kind of time. First big difference for me going to a Catholic high school, Holy Cross had a school uniform policy. You had to purchase a school sweater, a hunter green cardigan with 2 white stripes on the upper left sleeve. Wearing the sweater was optional, but if you were going to wear a sweater, it had to be the school sweater. The rest of our uniform was non-school issue, but for guys, we had to wear black or charcoal gray dress slacks. Slacks, not trousers, slacks. Also, a white or pastel dress shirt. Short sleeves were allowed, as were dress shirts with a small pattern, a simple stripe or check. No bold patterns, big stripes, the paisleys, no. Black or dark brown, simple dress shoes. Girls had fewer choices. The Holy Cross issue, green skirt, white shirt, optional green vest, Green knee socks were optional but preferred. Same sweater rule, same shoe rule. No large jewelry. Teachers rarely enforced the dress code. That was done mostly by the principal and vice principal, who patrolled the halls early in the morning and between classes to spot the violations. Oh, and there were always violations. Our raison d'etre as Holy Cross students was to cheat the uniform rules. Why, that's a rather bright shirt, isn't it, Larry? Yeah, my other shirts were dirty and no one had time to do laundry. Here's a note from home. Of course, it was never a note from home. It was a note written by another student. Don't mean to stereotype, but the girls had way better penmanship. So we knew who the girls were who could write a note that looked exactly like it came from your mother. Worked more often than it didn't. The most common violation was girls' skirts. At the knee, perhaps just slightly above. Many of the girls, after passing the informal morning inspection, rolled up the waistband of their skirts, the roll-up concealed by the vest or the sweater, until they exposed a lot of leg. A lot of leg. As hormone-driven high school boys, we loved it. Holy Cross administration, not so much. This is what they did, no kidding. You'd be in the middle of algebra class or something, there'd be a knock on the door. In comes Sister Victoria, a nun from the Holy Order, Sisters of the Humorless Inferno, and she is carrying a yardstick. As the guys and the teacher just sat there, she called up all the girls, and they had to kneel on the floor in a long line at the front of the classroom. She placed the yardstick on the floor, slid it along the floor at the knees of the girls. If the yardstick touched the skirt was long enough. The student could stand and return to her seat. If not, she had to remain kneeling. When this procedure was done, you might have like 8 girls still kneeling at the front of the class. While kneeling, Sister Victoria issued them all pink slips, which meant they had to go to the office for further punishment. As this happened more often, when you were in class and there was a knock at the door, it was almost funny to watch the girls suddenly reach for their skirt waistband, squirming to roll it down while seated at their desks. Authoritarianism. So many laughs. Sister Victoria also taught religion class, Catholic high school. You know, we had to have one of those. It was 90 minutes twice a week in the big auditorium. At least a third of the school was in there. Roll call took too long, so they didn't do it. Ergo, easy to skip the class. Go for coffee at the mall. Even the guy who owned the coffee shop would see a bunch of kids coming in wearing green and say, "Oh, yeah, must be religion class." Didn't matter. Even though you got a grade at the end, religion wasn't crucial to your high school diploma. Even the Catholics didn't have that much sway with the Board of Education. The final exam was always easy, multiple choice. God is great. God is the greatest. God is supreme. All of the above. Hey, did you pass religion class, Larry? Hell yeah. We had a couple of other nuns as teachers. No priests. I guess by high school we were too old for them. The other teachers were just plain church-going, God-fearing men and women. We had sports teams, football, basketball, volleyball, etc. We were a small school, competed against all the other high schools in the city, never won any championships, at least in my day, which is really strange considering God was on our side. Hey, God, what am I asking for? 2 points at the buzzer. Is that so tough? Who's the patron saint of football? Maybe we should be calling ourselves that instead of Holy Cross. Maybe we'd win more. The team name was the Holy Cross Crusaders, the only high school football team in the city, named after a group of bloodthirsty, murderous thugs who in separate crusades between the 11th and 13th century attempted to slaughter anyone who was not a Christian, and claim most of the then-known world on behalf of Jesus. They all wore holy crosses. We had cheerleaders and pom-poms. They didn't, to my knowledge. Interesting that even way back then, near the origins of religion, it was never considered as a personal contract between you and your God, a one-on-one live and let live concept. Instead, an organized quest for power. My God is better than your God. My way or die. Christians may not have invented that, but certainly went a long way to perfect it. By the way, the sports team is still called the Crusaders, I'm pretty sure. Inappropriate doesn't occur to Catholics, I guess. Or maybe it just takes longer. My memory of Holy Cross Catholic High School was that it was about 60% high school and 40% Catholic. I only did 2 years there. I made it out relatively unscathed. Feels wrong now to complain about my Catholic high school life when for at least 100 years before I ever went to Holy Cross and for 25 years after, the Catholics were busy running a whole other school system, residential schools. I did not know about residential schools until well into adulthood. I don't say that as an excuse, just as a point of fact. How would I have known about those schools back in the day? Nobody was talking, especially not the Catholics, who 700 years after the fact still carried the death mission spirit of the Crusaders. Catholics already directly opposed the accepted public premise that we should separate church and state. Across the country, there are Catholic school boards. They oversee their own system of learning and carry political sway. It's like pulling teeth to even get them to raise a pride flag, or for that matter, tolerate any advocacy that doesn't match the high rulings of Rome. I got detention for wearing a non-regulation shirt, but then I went home. I didn't live at the school and get beaten for what I was born as. For over 120 years in this country, Catholics and other Christian churches ran residential schools, using every mental, psychological, and physical tool to purge the Indian out of indigenous children. We'll beat it out of them if we have to, and they did. In my home province of Saskatchewan, there are hundreds of unidentified graves of children. I guess they must have failed religion class or committed some other sin punishable by death. The last residential school in the country was in Saskatchewan, closing in 1996. 1996. It is a blight on that province. It's a blight on our country. In recent years, other church groups have apologized. The Catholic Church has not. Many will say that the governments are just as or more culpable than the Catholic Church. That may be true. Tearing down statues of John A. Macdonald is only a small start. But I'll say this, governments of different stripes have at least apologized and had their apologies written into the history of our country. Hopefully that history, along with the other stories, will be told and taught to future generations. Governments at least have attempted to reconcile, and even with their bureaucratic heaviness, have begun to try to compensate. The Catholic Church, with their money and power, have instead done more to hold on to their money and power than to move toward the truth. Did you, like me, have some new hope when Francis became Pope? Even non-Catholics can see the influence that a Pope can have, and many thought, okay, here's a guy ready to invoke some change. To me, he's been a huge disappointment. Perhaps he was like any world leader, coming in with the best of intentions, until he realized the system is bigger than any one person. Let me explain the hierarchy of the Catholic Church. It goes priest, bishop, archbishop, cardinal, pope, treasurer, attorney. The 11th commandment, thou shalt cover thine ass. Individual bishops, priests, some lay Catholics have apologized, but not the organization, not the syndicate that ran the residential school system for well over a century. So far, they haven't said much. Maybe eventually. We'll see. And even past any apology, the Vatican should really get an online bank account, a papal PayPal, and transfer some funds over to survivors and victims' families. Shameful that somewhere on their books, they found it a sin to be indigenous, a sin to believe in the spirit of wind and the earth and the sun and of the animals, instead of believing in an invisible man in the sky and or his mythological offspring. What's happened so far on this issue are the first steps. There's knowledge, acknowledgement, discussion, action, results. It's early stages of the process, unfortunately. My goal, to be an ally. That's any issue that may not affect me directly, but I care about it. What can I do? Be an ally. How do you do that? Well, that's up to you. A long time ago, separate from any catechism or Catholic high school indoctrination, I learned the word Catholicity. Small c, Catholicity. It means having a liberality of sentiment, a universality of viewpoint, a comprehensive range of knowledge. A good synonym for it would be empathy. Today's Catholic Church exists without Catholicity.
Later That Same Life is written, voiced, and produced by Larry Fedoruk. LarryFedoruk37 at gmail.com.